Welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking the absolute strategic transformation of Gujarat Themis Biosyn Limited, or GTBL. We're looking at how they've gone from a niched manufacturer to a globally integrated powerhouse. Now, if you follow the pharma industry, you know that making the leap from a regional player to a globally recognized contract development and manufacturing organization, or CDMO, is incredibly rare. It doesn't just take capital. It takes a highly disciplined, multi-year strategic roadmap. So we're going to look at the exact blueprint GTBL is using to do just that, pulling straight from their latest investor roadshow data. All right, let's dive in. To really understand their incredible trajectory, we first have to ask, how exactly does a regional company successfully make this leap into a global CDMO powerhouse? The pharmaceutical value chain is, well, it's notoriously complex. Moving from producing basic chemical intermediates all the way to specialty biologics and gene therapy, that's not something that happens overnight. It takes a rock-solid foundation, immense financial discipline to fund your internal expansion, a very deliberate strategy to move up the value chain, and eventually the bold vision to execute massive cross-border acquisitions. So here is the exact blueprint we are covering today. Number 1, a diversified pharma platform. 2, driven by strong financials. 3, expanding capacity and innovation. 4, mastering forward integration. And 5, the Microbiopharm Japan acquisition. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, a diversified pharma platform, the foundation. Operating out of their Valsad facility over in Gujarat, GTBL has built this incredibly powerful foundation with an employee strength of 235 dedicated professionals. Now, this single manufacturing site is really the beating heart of the company. What makes them so unique is their deep, highly specialized expertise in fermentation-based manufacturing. And guys, this isn't just basic chemistry. Fermentation is a highly complex biological process. It requires ultra-precise environmental controls and deep technical know-how. This facility represents literally decades of compounding knowledge in this very specific domain. And they've leveraged that single facility into a highly diversified operation. Look at this. They already boast ownership of 13 key Rafah-based tuberculosis and anti-infective generic brands. But they aren't just selling in their own backyard. They've built up a strong retail channel presence stretching across the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. On top of that, they're actively scaling their CDMO services across pharma, non-pharma, and biologics, explicitly targeting major global markets including Asia and Japan. It's just a remarkably robust, multi-channel business model. Moving on to Section 2, driven by strong financials, the engine of growth. So let's talk top-line revenue from operations, where we see some really strong consistency. They booked over 16,900 locks in FY24, saw a slight dip in FY25 to just over 15,000, and then rebounded powerfully to book over 16,580 locks in FY26. This consistent top-line performance, that's what gives them the reliable capital to actually deploy for their strategic initiatives. But, revenue is only half the story when you're in manufacturing. The crucial takeaway, the number that really jumps off the page, is their massive 45.55% EBITDA margin in FY26. Let me put that in perspective. For a manufacturing business, maintaining an earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization margin in the mid-40s is incredibly rare. It is a powerful marker of their extreme operational efficiency. Essentially, it means that for every rupee of revenue they generate, a huge portion is flowing straight down to operating profit, giving them maximum leverage to reinvest in themselves. And that flows right into their steady baseline profitability. Looking at the profit after tax, or PAT, from FY24 to FY26, we're seeing strong cash generation ranging from roughly 4,600 to over 5,900 INR lakhs. Even more importantly, those PAT margins remain remarkably strong, hovering between roughly 28 and 35%. This right here, this is basically the blueprint of a self-sustaining growth engine. They aren't just relying on massive debt to grow, they're generating the essential capital for strategic internal reinvestment right out of their daily operations. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, expanding capacity and innovation, reinvesting profits. So what did they do with that operational cash flow? Well, in a massive operational upgrade, GTBL literally doubled their annual fermentation capacity, taking it to an impressive 990 kiloliters. But they didn't just build bigger tanks and call it a day. They simultaneously established a brand new Good Manufacturing Practice, or GMP-approved, R&D lab right there in their Valsad facility. Because it's not just about volume, right? It's about brain power. This new infrastructure is completely dedicated to strategic innovation. The new lab allows them to forge new intermediate molecules and explore entirely new applications for their existing catalog. It's a brilliant strategic dual threat. You increase the sheer volume of what you can produce, while at the very same time expanding the intellectual property and the complexity of what you can offer to your clients. All right, Section 4, Mastering Forward Integration, moving up the value chain. Now, if you've ever wondered what forward integration actually means in the pharma world, it's basically how a company moves closer to the end consumer. It's how you move up the value chain. Instead of just making the base chemicals and, selling them to someone else who makes the actual drug, you start making the drug itself. This allows you to capture significantly more margin and offer much more complex, ready-to-use solutions to the global market. And you can see this playing out perfectly in their recent operations. They successfully transitioned from just making intermediates in step 1 to actually manufacturing complete, complex, active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs, in step 2. Because of that newly doubled capacity we just talked about, in FY26, they were able to start producing rifampicin, which is a critical antibiotic used for tuberculosis, and rifeximine, used for gastrointestinal therapeutics. They're cutting out the middleman. They're producing the active, life-saving ingredients themselves. Finally, Section 5, the Microbiopharm Japan acquisition, the global leap. This is the big one. GTBL recently announced the strategic acquisition of Microbiopharm Japan. Now, keeping in mind this is still subject to regulatory approvals, this is a monumental pivot for the company. This is the move that completely transforms their profile and global footprint. Honestly, they are essentially buying their way into the highest tiers of biopharmaceutical innovation. And the highly technical new capabilities they're acquiring, they're absolutely staggering. This gives GTBL immediate access to some serious cutting-edge tech. They gain engineered microorganisms to produce high-value peptides. They gain proprietary plasmid manufacturing capabilities. And most impressively, they're getting patented enzyme technology for the site-specific and homogeneous synthesis of antibody-drug conjugates, or ADCs. If you follow oncology, you know ADCs are currently one of the hottest areas in targeted cancer therapies. They even gain access to genome editing techniques to design high-yielding strains. So this isn't just an acquisition of factories, it's an acquisition of next-generation scientific capabilities. Furthermore, the physical and financial impact of this single acquisition is just massive. It immediately adds 3 manufacturing plants in Japan. It expands their portfolio with fermentation-based immunosuppressants, which are absolutely crucial for organ transplants, and oncology APIs for treating breast cancer and leukemia. Plus, when you look at the financials, based on FY26 figures, this acquisition brings in an additional 9.5 billion Japanese yen. That translates to roughly 561.82 crores in additional revenue. It is a massive, immediate scale-up of their entire operation. Ultimately, their whole deliberate journey comes down to this quote from their own materials. Moving up the pharma value chain from anti-tuberculosis and anti-infective APIs to specialty small molecules, biologics, and gene therapy, leveraging proprietary fermentation expertise. They have systematically plotted a course right to the very top of the pharmaceutical value chain. They took their foundational proprietary fermentation expertise, optimized it, funded it, expanded it, and have now leveraged it to leap straight into specialty small molecules, biologics, and gene therapy on a global stage. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we really have to ask ourselves, with these new global capabilities, how will GTBL's proprietary technology disrupt the future of gene therapy worldwide? I mean, they've proven they have the operational discipline to master basic fermentation and scale into APIs. But now they're armed with Japanese manufacturing facilities and cutting-edge genome editing and ADC synthesis technologies. GTBL is no longer just a company to watch in India. They are for sure a company to watch on the global frontier of modern medicine. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I'll see you in the next explainer.